Hi and welcome to Easy Fishing. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to fit a PTFE bush to the top of a pole section and how to fit a puller bung to the bottom of the section. Today I'm just using the top two sections of my tri-cast margin pole. So what bits do we need? Well, you need a bush for the top, and I've selected a Drennan super slick internal with a 3.8mm internal diameter and 5.1 outer, rated to take pink and red bungee, which is about as big as I'll ever use. I have a elastic. In this case it's black hydro rated 12 to 16. I have a Drennan pull bung, and I have got the choice of either using a DAC rod connector or a standard Drennan two-piece bungee bead, which is probably what I'll use. Tools, bit of sandpaper. I prefer a three-cornered file to cut the pole with. If you use a hacksaw, you have to wrap insulation tape around the top to stop the fibres splintering. With a file, they don't splinter anywhere near as much. Any other bits? A pole threader, probably won't need that. And I'm going to fit an intermediate foam bush into the top of the number 2 section. The only other thing I might need is some glue just to hold this bug in place. For that I favour some Boss stick. So let's get going. First of all, select a bush. Now I'm certain these won't fit in, and I will have to chop a fair amount off the pole. So if you hold it up against the pole, you can see you're going to need chop quite a bit off the pole. So looking at this, I'm going to have to chop at least 6 inches off the top. So we'll start with that. Never cut too much. Always cut it in small increments. Get my file, rest the pole on a scrap of wood. Do not force this. Just clean up the ends with the file very gently. Take your bush, which I've put down here somewhere, there we go, and offer it up to the pole. Now, as I thought, considerably amount more, so let's keep going. Now looking at this pole, I'm probably going to have to take another 3 or 4 inches off. Well, getting there. Not quite, just a bit more. I'm just dressing down the edge with a bit of abrasive. Let's try again. Still not there. Now I find this really annoying. This is supposed to be a power top. Now I'm fitting a reasonably sized bush, quite a big one admittedly, but why don't they manufacture the poles with a bigger bore tip? Seems like you're paying for carbon you're not using. This is the reason I would recommend Drennan poles to beginners and people who aren't confident of this. Let's try again. Still not enough. Though it's getting there. Just trimming off another centimetre and I reckon that will do it. No, it's still not enough. Try again. And here we have a nice tight fit. Now if you're fussy, you can glue this in. Don't use araldite because you'll never get the bush out. And you only need, if you cut back the top pole tip correctly, you only need just the merest drip. Take any excess off. Because the bush is a fairly tight fit, interference fit, it's not going to come out now. Right, the next step. So we have the bush fitted to the top section. Looks like this now. Next job. We're going to take the puller bung, which is here. I've used a Drennan one. I prefer the Drennan one, not because I'm a Drennan lover, or even though I am, is because the design. The Drennan one comes with a PTFE bush at that end and a PTFE bush at that end. It also appears to be made from slightly lighter plastic than the other makers. Most of these pole bungs will have to be cut to fit your pole section. So to do that, take your pole section and put the bung in the end of it. Now you can see how far out it protrudes, so you'll need to cut a fair bit off. Now when you cut it off, be very careful. It's all too easy to ruin the job. Mark where you're going to cut it and then move one ridge back to the thinner end. When you cut it, be careful not to cut into the tube inside it as well. Now to cut them, you can use a Stanley knife, a scalpel, whatever. I've found that this sharp knife seems to do the trick very well. So here goes. Mark it up. Now, I've just made a small mark, one ring above where I'm going to cut it back. So, putting it on a piece of wood, bearing in mind what I said about being careful cutting it, and I'm going to trim it back. Just clean the edges up a bit, making sure you blow all the debris out of it, and offer it up again. And there we have it. I know by that there's enough room for my next section to go up into the pole. Next step, fit the elastic, make sure the foam bug is glued in place, and we're good to go. One of these sensors elastic centralising bushes. They come in various sizes. I happen to know this size will fit straight in the pole like that. I shall add a dab of glue. If you don't, there is a danger you will push the pole together, and it will, when you take it apart, it will leave this bush behind in the top section. Be warned. Always make sure this is securely glued in. So again, just a smear of Bostik. Again, make sure you wipe off the excess and leave to dry. When this is dry, you can thread the elastic, which is the next step. I'm using black hydro. Now the bush I've put in the top of the pole will enable me to put black or red hydro, pink or red Drennan bungee. And the size is also important because I can also put a smaller super slick bush in it, this time one with an internal of 2.6 and an external of 3.8, which will fit exactly into the bush in the top of the number one section, should I choose to use a smaller elastic. To attach your rig, you have two choices. You either have what's known as a Dacron connector, or you can use an conventional elastic connector, in this case just a Drennan. But I'm going to use the Dacron because I'm going to be using quite thick heavy lines with this. So to do it, take your connectors out, and these are Drennan, they've got a little preformed loop. Just slide one off the tube like this, dead easy. There you are, a little loop formed in it. Now because I'm using black hydro and it's fluid filled, it has a small knot already in the end. If you're using a solid or any other one, put a small knot in it. Take your elastic, pass it through the loop on the end of the Dacron connector and gently pull it down. Slide it up behind the knot. plenty of lubricant. Slide the connector to the knot so it looks like this. Then take the little rubber or plastic olive, I suppose you'd call them, and just pull it over. And there you have it. All you just do, trim this off nice and neatly. Then take the end of your elastic, thread it down through the top sections of the pole. If it's a used section, you will almost definitely need a pole threader, but this is a new one. And the weight of the elastic should pull itself through quite easily. Doesn't always, but it should do. I don't know if the microphone's picking up the siren in the background. I don't know why every time I try and make a video, someone outside seems determined to make as much noise as possible. Just keep threading the elastic through till it appears at the bottom. When the elastic appears at the bottom, pull it through. Note how snugly that connector fits up against the bush. And pick up your bottom section, take your length of elastic, starting from the small end, thread the elastic down. As soon as the elastic appears at the bottom of the pole, grab it, pull it through. Then pick up your puller bung, thread the elastic into that. Push the bung inside the pole. With the Drennan bungs, you get two small soft rubber beads with different diameter holes in the end. For thick elastics, obviously, I would choose the larger. Thread that on the bungee thin end first, like so. Pull the bungee, the knot up to the end of the puller bung. So it's like that, just so the elastic's under slight tension. You can adjust it later. Pull an inch or so out, form a loop, tie a double overhand knot in it. Lubricate it, pull it tight. Lots of lubrication. Then that knot can be either slightly pulled into the bush or left out. Trim these ends off and you are left with a nice bulky knot that will never pull through. So there you have it. Now I've probably had to chop about 10 inches off the top of this pole. I suppose that's about, it's not bad I suppose, but I hate having to chop anything off the top. They should all be supplied with bigger bore kits. This is classified as a big bore kit, but you still have to trim as you can see, you know, 10 inches off it, I guess. Not good, but there you have it. Store it in a pole tube. I use the Preston ones. Good squirt of elastic lubricant down it, and you're good to go. Incidentally, if you have a scrap of elastic left, don't just throw it away. Tie a loop in it. I actually like to tie a twisted loop. Show you why. So I just twist the elastic up a few times. So it looks like that. Overhand knot it. So you're left with the little loop. Put that on the pole. Slide it over the pole. Who needs pole hooks? So take your scrap elastic, tie a small loop in it. So you've got that. Trim the ends off and you're left with a little loop like this. Take your pole section, slide it over. When you've got your rigs at the water side, put your hook underneath here, saves tangles. So I hope that was easy to follow for everybody. The only tricky bit, I would guess, is cutting the pole tip. If you're going to do it, this is what I prefer. A little 3/4 file and a bit of sandpaper. As you've seen, it's quite easy to do. And there you have it. And these pull kits are essential if you had fish commercial fisheries, especially if you're using hollow, which most people do, and I do on commercial fisheries for most of my commercial fishing. If you watched my video, Short Pole at White Acres, you saw me using a pull kit to great effect using a very light elastic. I think I had Drennan Green 6 to 8. This is Black Hydro 12 to 16, but the principle's the same. If it's a small fish, you won't need to use the puller kit. If it's a big fish, you can. And if you saw the video, a lesson learnt on puller bungs, you saw what happens when you use what it did to my mate when he caught a good fish on hollow elastic without a puller bung. Took him over 10 minutes to get it in. Such a lot of faffing about. Don't fall into that trap. Hollow elastics on a commercial, puller bungs. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was nice and simple for everybody, and I hope you'll join me again very soon for another episode of Easy Fishing. Bye for now. Tight lines.